welcome to another video on the pond. This is I think the first video on the pond of 2021. Specifically I wanted to talk about the Ultra Bead filter today and the multiport valve specifically. And as you can see, the fish are all pretty much at the bottom at the minute. Obviously it's very cold, we've only just got rid of the snow that we had last week. Basically what I wanted to talk about specifically now is the multiport valve on the bead filter. Basically after a while these have a tendency to leak water from one section to another. Quite common in bead filters and multiport valves. Something you have to change regular on a swimming pool filter, for instance. And normally it's quite straightforward. You order the new gasket and you put the new gasket in and the leak stops and you're all sorted for a couple more years or so. To be fair, you normally get at least 5 years out of them from what I've been reading. I've had this set up now, I think it's 4 years now I've had it set up. And basically, I noticed around the beginning of November time that the water level was creeping down throughout the week between the water changes and cleaning the filter. And noticed we wasn't really getting, it wasn't like it was hot weather so it was evaporating. I wasn't losing much water from cleaning the sieve. And obviously I had not done any backwashes on the filter since the previous time I cleaned it, so I know the water was obviously going somewhere, and the pond, as far as I know, wasn't leaking anywhere. So that's when I realised there might be something not quite right with the multiport valve. I also noticed that top pipe coming out the top of the UV when doing a backwash had water coming out of it, so the water was supposed to be going down the drain in the corner during the backwash, but it wasn't. It was, some of the water was trickling out there through the shower into the pond, so the dirty water you obviously don't want entering the pond. I then also removed the pipe that connects the multiport to the waste just to see what it was doing in normal operation, and there was indeed water trickling out of it 24/7. So I was in need of a new gasket. This should hopefully have been straightforward. So from the supplier I got the koi dealer I got the filter from, I ordered the new gasket replacement. Within a few days it arrived, and I quickly realised that the gasket, or the spider gasket they sent me, was no way going to fit the multiport valve I got on that bead filter. I went straight back to the supplier to try and find out more information from the koi dealer, who obviously went back to Aquaforte because he himself didn't understand why the gasket they supplied didn't fit. Pretty poor communication from Aquaforte. Obviously I was losing water out the filter at quite a rate, so it was quite urgent we managed to sort this out relatively quickly. That was the beginning of November. It took till the end of December, in fact it was after Christmas, so the beginning of January, before Aquaforte finally come back, and I finally got some information from the dealer saying that at some point Aquaforte had changed the spec and changed the multiport valve they use on their bead filters, and that's why the gasket they sent me didn't fit the standard I've got. Now mine isn't particularly old, I only bought it I think 3 years ago, so it must be a relatively recent change they've made to their design. But what I can show you on this piece here is, this is the centre plate inside the multiport valve. Basically the handle sits on the top there, and underneath you can see there's this, as you can see it's white not black, rubber seal, but it's built on to the multiport plate valve, onto the actual part of the valve that moves around at the top like that. So it's not something you can easily just change the rubber, you have to change this whole plate assembly. Unfortunately at no point did Aquaforte mention any alternatives or get back to me in any other way of sorting this problem out. At that point I was getting desperate because I had to turn the bead off because the water leakage just got worse and worse, to the point it was actually leaking water out the pond as quickly as I could fill it up. So I ended up turning the multi-bead filter off for it was well over a week in the end. At this point I was panicking and ended up doing a lot of research myself, talking to companies in Portugal, Spain and finally Austria. This multiport valve, unlike a lot of multiport valves, has, like I said, this whole plate mechanism. 90%, 99% of the ones I've seen just have this easily replaceable gasket, so it was a lot harder to get it. As far as I know, I couldn't find any in the UK, and we got to the point basically where tracked down the manufacturer of this actual multiport valve, which was an Austrian company called, I believe it's pronounced Prayer, which I'll write down in the description for everybody, because I'd imagine this is a problem if anybody else has with a multiport valve. It saved them a lot of hassle going through the trouble I've had over the last 2 months, going straight to the supplier. But basically Prayer put me straight away, managed to find out which multiport valve it was, what components I could or couldn't order, and basically put me in contact with their UK dealer, which was IPS Flow Systems, I believe it's called. Basically Tony at IPS Flow Systems helped me out tremendously. He got all the parts ordered I needed straight away. I had a few options really. One was order a new multiport valve, which is obviously something I definitely didn't want to do because of the expense of the whole valve for the sake of the seal. Buy the whole basically buy the centre mechanism you see here, with the top handle and the top plate, which obviously I didn't need because I've got a perfectly good handle and top plate over here. Or buy a seal assembly, and a seal assembly contains basically the plate here with the seal underneath, the seals on the top here that sit beneath the handle, and basically a replacement seal for everything regarding the multiport valve, so all the outlets and everything, which was really good. I think that came out after VAT and postage, because obviously it had to come from Austria via, I don't know if they used it, I don't know if it was DPD they used in the end. So basically a fair bit of that obviously was postage from Austria. But essentially it come within about 2 or 3 days. And I think overall with the plate and the pack that contained every single seal was, I believe it was £60, and then obviously a bit more for the postage. At that point, I think the actual seal, the replacement seal from Aquaforte on its own with postage was £40. So the fact for an extra £20–25, I got the whole component, the seal and every replacement seal on the multiport valve for a little bit more money. I didn't think it was too bad. Basically, I fitted it, took it apart. The hardest bit is getting the handle out. If I get a bit closer to it for you, just a second. They're a bit noisy because you can hear the pumps, but if you look there is a shaft going through and a pin coming out the other side here. You basically have to pull this pin out to slide the handle off. Obviously you remove all these bolts around the edge, the whole section comes off the top. You pull the pin out the back and the handle comes off, which then gets you to the inside of the mechanism, and this part comes straight out. There's a spring sits on there, which is what you pull the handle down to compress the spring to allow you to move it like that. Basically the spring comes easily off, and basically we slide the spring in the handle back onto the new component with the previous top lid, bolt it all back together, and it's worked straight away, no more leaking. To be fair, it's a relatively straightforward job with a screwdriver, obviously take all the nuts and bolts. I think there's 10 bolts around the edge of it in total, but to take them all off took not that long at all really, 5–10 minutes and the job's done. So in future I don't want anyone else to have to go through what I've done trying to find the right manufacturer, right components. Obviously with I think a brand new multiport valve was around £400, so it was something I definitely didn't want to do, especially seeing I redid all this pipe work, what was it, just over a year ago, and the way I've had to attach it to the bypass, because the bypass kit they sent me was leaking from receiving it, I couldn't just easily disassemble it, so I'd have probably needed a new bypass kit, which is again £200. So yeah, I wanted to avoid the expense of that, and probably I'd have ripped the whole thing out and maybe put a drum in if that was the case. But yeah, for the sake of this valve, yeah, it's a lot of trouble and a lot of panic really over the Christmas period, because I didn't know whether or not I was going to have to keep it running. Luckily, because I've got 2 pumps, I can keep it bypassing through to the shower still through the UV. But obviously you don't want your bead filter stagnating while the water's turned off. So I gave that a really good flush when we turned it back on. But again, that was another slight worry. But yeah, it's not ideal, the fact you have to change this whole component rather than just dropping in a new seal. It's obviously going to be problematic, but I'm sleeping a lot more easy now, knowing the solution, knowing who I need to talk to get the components I need. And like I said, I put all the information from IPS, which is the UK supplier, and Prayer from Austria, all in the description below. Because if you know anybody with a bead filter, or a bead filter that you feel like it's got maybe the same spec multiport valve on, obviously they've changed it, so whether this is the reason they changed it, I don't know. but I feel I don't want anyone else to have the worry, because basically everyone I've talked to didn't have a clue of this problem. Basically, I've been on a lot of the koi groups, and obviously the talking to the koi dealer where I got the filter from in the first place, and it's a problem he's never come across before, or anything like that. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware really of this, so they don't have to go through the same problem. I'm actually considering buying another one as a spare, just in case, really, for the kind of situation, especially with it being in Austria. Because it isn't something like when I'm talking to IPS in the UK, they don't stock any of the multiport valves. They normally deal with your more traditional grey pressure pipe, but at least there's something they can get hold of when you need it. So yeah, unfortunately Aquaforte was pretty poor. They didn't give me any alternatives, didn't give me any solutions, and took a very long time just to come back to me to tell me they'd use a different spec of multiport valve. And in that time I was going around companies all over Europe trying to find the solution, because all I had to go off was maybe some numbers on the side of the multiport valve, and basically trying to look at pictures online and trying to find pool filters that use the same multiport valve, and then through that find the manufacturer of the multiport valve. But yeah, just that's the main point of this video really. I just wanted to quickly go over the issues I had. I mean, we're up and running again now, it's all good. The pond's pretty quiet as an update on the pond, and I still throw food in for the sturgeon obviously, but the koi, you see, they're all sat underneath where the water enters in the corner. They're not really doing a deal, there's a few scattered around. The sturgeon are still growing and getting nice and big, but other than that everything else is just kind of relaxing on the bottom. But yeah, I'd leave it at that. If you can, as I say, not just for my benefit of the video, but not so much share the video, but just share the information with the people you know, because I think it's important to know, just to help people out really. I don't want people in the same situation. So thank you for watching. If you've got any questions, please drop them below or message me, because I'd be happy to help out where I can, to kind of help out where I've had the problems. So yeah, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're not subscribed, if you don't mind, and thank you for watching.